According to her bio, Willow Ross sounds like my kind of girl. When Willow was 4, she let us know that she was no longer going to eat animals because she liked playing with them but not eating them, so she became a vegetarian, and we adapted our meals around her. She did eat salami for a few more months because her playmates convinced her that salami was not meat. One of her favorite toys as a child was a whoopee cushion. Period. She surprised her kindergarten teacher on April Fool's Day with a metal can of salted nuts, which her teacher made a big show of opening, holding it away from herself, not knowing that Willow had already removed the spring-loaded snake from the can. She nailed the teacher with that one. Without treatment, she could end up a little lad's popcorn addict, but couldn't we all? Willow was drilled to know all the rock and roll royalty and some of the jazz royalty, the king, the boss, the killer, the queens, the godfather, etc. Willow Ross is talking tonight about loss, desire, and fantasy.
I'm Willow, and I'm an artist who makes conceptual objects. I shrink the scale of the objects and scenes that I make and render them to give the viewer an omnipotent perspective, allowing you to digest the undigestible in a single detailed object. This piece is called Memories Cut Short. This is a close-up of the piece, and I honed my sculptural techniques in the studio while I draw heavily on my background in art restoration for the detailed surface rendering. I make these pieces using many different materials, such as plaster, wire, paintbrush bristles, and I even used on this piece mayonnaise to oxidize the chains of the swing. This piece is called Pendulum, and with my miniature environments, I try to depict a moment in time that's frozen, quite like a memory, and this enables the viewer to make their own personal connections to the piece. This is a close-up of Pendulum, and all of my tree pieces deal with the ephemeral nature of existence. And this piece is called Adjust and Adapt, and here I really wanted to show, and in all of my tree pieces, show the connection between human control and their environment, and how this is specifically how we train our trees on the side of the road to grow around the telephone wires, and how we make it go around what we find more important in our life. So we're controlling it. And this piece is called Fantasy in the Face of Dying. It's a very personal piece for me, which I don't expect the viewer to understand completely, the whole story, but I do want people to see the book as a representation of fiction and the garden inside of it as a fantasy. The garden is actually in the chapter, the beginning of the chapter of Dying and Death. And I have text on the stones because I want the story to continue through the fantasy. And this side of the book I spent a while destroying, which felt really wrong to do. It took a while to get into it, but this is actually hours of destruction, and is to represent earth and mountains and sort of the obstacle of getting to a fantasy, which, you know, climbing a mountain to get there. This piece is called Exposed, and I really wanted to show two different worlds, and the outside is one world that is the perfect facade of, we keep our lawn nice and our gardens neat, and just sort of no one knows what really happens with your life until they go inside your house. So the outside is not really telling of what's going on. And I actually hurt my finger in the process of making this project pretty badly. And connecting all of the wires was a really difficult feat for me. I had to use my middle finger on my left hand to twist wires, tiny wires together and strip them. So that was a big feat for me. This is the back side of the house, and it depicts a domestic scene with non-domestic objects. Culturally, domestic objects are typically read as feminine. Actually, a high school group was in the gallery in the past month, and the boys were enamored with all of the vices that I had in this house and pointing them all out, and the girls were a little off-put by the dollhouse. And the teacher, I guess, gathered them around and explained, this is very interesting, but we don't want to live like that. And yes, I do have a meth lab in my dollhouse, which is every girl's dream. And I worked closely with a glassblower who helped me create my visions. We didn't really know what a meth lab looked like, so we tried our best. So I have different vices throughout the house. I have probably over 12 different vices. Syringes are made from beads and earring pieces and clay. Condoms are actually made from balloons. My friend works at iParty, so that was helpful. So I made almost all of the objects and then had to go back and destroy all of them, which was a really difficult thing for me, to destroy something I spent hours making. Each of the cigarette boxes are about the size of the like a thumbnail, and and there's a very pornographic scene on the TV. Luckily, it's tilted just a little bit. And this is actually my dollhouse from when I was 3 years old. My father made it for me, and I left all the dust that is collected over the years. And this last piece, this is one of my latest pieces, and it's the most visually arresting for me that I have done yet. And it's the best example, I think, of what I mean by conceptual object. The title of that one was One Sweet Thing, Three Nice Words, A Sacrifice.